Hey guys, here we have a design from one of our members in the Mentorship Group, and I thought I could probably help make this composition feel a bit less crowded and feel a bit more like it's sort of flowing with the arm a bit better. So I'm gonna make my edit to this. I hope it can be helpful. I think that all the elements in this design are really cool, and I think the concept's really cool. Mixing this sort of like cyberpunk-esque main element here, the girl with the sort of robot arm, and then having these classical elements around, like the angel and the sort of birds and some columns here. But I do think that this design is a little bit crowded. To me, it feels like the artist kind of had to put all the elements within this forearm here, and it gets a bit tight and crowded, and there's no good flow to this. So I think I can actually restructure this design using the same elements, but just sort of changing the size a little bit of some and changing the placement and maybe actually taking some elements away in order to make this a more sort of balanced and flowing composition. So let's see what we can do. So the first thing is I'm going to reduce this composition down to its main elements. So I'm going to take out all the background layers so that we're left with just the main elements, the cyber girl and the angel and the two birds. And what I can feel is that the size between the main element and, for example, this angel back here, they're a little bit off. This angel is a bit too small compared to the size of the girl here. So the first thing I would think about is actually bringing her up to about the same size, or this angel up to the same size, roughly. Okay, let's say somewhere here. Okay, and we're going to be replacing these elements a little bit now. The next thing I think about is that, as I said, we have all our elements sort of smashed into this little frame. I would like to spread these out a little bit. So to do that, I'm going to actually choose the background layer of the arm. Here we have that. And I'm going to go up to Canvas, Crop and Resize. And I'm actually going to make this a little bigger. Just about to here. Okay, and since we don't have the original photo of the arm, I'm going to just use my smudge tool the best I can to sort of like drag out this and kind of... The first thing I want to do is actually reposition the main element, the girl. So I feel like if we take away these elements, she is not sitting at a very strategic part of the arm. I feel like she looks like a sticker right in the middle there. My intuition tells me that she should probably be sitting somewhere up here. So then we kind of have her on the upper third of the arm. I think I want that because the arm is kind of like thicker up here and then it's sloping down quick towards the wrist. So we kind of put her up there where we have a little bit more meat, and yeah, I think that's going to be pretty good. I'm going to see if we maybe make this a little bigger perhaps. So when I design, I go from the main element, the very core of the design, and I try to find the right size and the right placement just for that element. And let's say somewhere right here. Okay, now we can bring back the angel and the birds and we'll find a good place for them. Let's actually start with just the angel. So I really like that the angel is sort of sitting behind some kind of invisible frame of her. I think that's really cool. But I want to have a little bit more space between them. If they're too close to each other, we kind of clutter the image a little bit. I want to create some breathing room. Okay, let's do it somewhere there. Maybe even here. Okay. Good enough for right now. And I can see that he cut out this part here and made it transparent. Very cool idea. I want to move that square a little bit, so I'm actually going to try to restore this image a little bit. I'm going to do this. I'm going to select the gray parts, okay? And then I'm going to actually copy paste it. See, now I have a layer just like that. And I think I'm going to copy paste it again to make it darker. And then I can merge those three. And then I merge it with that one. So now we've kind of restored this reference image. Now this part is as dark as the rest. Okay, so now we have the freedom to do that effect again, but change it a little bit. Let's see. I think I want to move the cyborg a little bit over here, like that. Somewhere around here perhaps. And then the angel could be somewhere up here. You see, now we're not conformed to only this part of the arm. When we kind of squeeze something into just that body part, we don't get that beautiful body flow or ornamental feeling. Like tattoos are supposed to decorate the body part they sit on. They shouldn't be stickers. In my world, they shouldn't be stickers. They should sort of sit very strategically on the body. And I like to kind of spread them out a little bit. And for example, just now by increasing the size of the angel and moving it up here a little bit, we can see that this wing here is intruding into the bicep area. But I think that's really cool because it gives the tattoo a little bit more spread and a little bit more like a decorative feeling with this wing coming in here like that. It's a cool flow, I think, if you look at it. Okay, so I would probably keep that there for now. And later we're going to bring back this invisible square. But I'll wait with that a little bit until I've placed all the other elements. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with these two for now. This is kind of suggesting something cool. It's not quite there yet, but it's sort of on the way. I like the relationship between these two at the moment. Let's bring in those birds. Okay, so the first thing I think about the birds is that they are there to sort of give a bit motion, like give some motion to the whole composition. Like you can see that they are in flight and they're kind of attacking each other or dancing in the air, let's say. And same there, I'd kind of want them to have a little bit more spread, like, you know, a little bit more action. So what I do sometimes with wings in general is that I kind of distort them and sometimes make some feathers a little bit longer than they really are in real life, just to make it look like even more dramatic. So, for example, let's take this bird. I'm gonna just select this wing here, let's say somewhere here. Okay, and then I'm gonna select it and I'm gonna do warp. And then I can drag this wing out a little bit to make this sort of wing a little bit longer and more like expressive. You see, it's like not so short and fat right now, if you will. It's more like elongated and sort of more majestic and powerful. Like that. We can even do it a little bit with this back wing here. We don't want to overdo it, but we can definitely like make these wings a little more beautiful, I feel, by just elongating the feathers a little bit. Maybe something like that. We don't have to do much. You see, all of a sudden now this bird has way more like action. I don't have any other word for it, but there's more just like power in this image, and it's like a little pointier and sharper. And let's see, let's do the same thing with the other bird. We can just maybe select that part of the wing. We do the same, we warp, and then we just kind of like drag it out. Not too much, but we can kind of reshape our references to do what we want them to do. And this is a small thing that I do very often. Maybe only I notice it, but I feel like I'm making a nice little difference and sort of improving my references to be better as tattoos, because I want that action that I keep talking about. Okay, so now that we have these, now I want to sort of position the birds so that the wings, the angles of the wings have a cool angle on the arm. I want the birds to sort of sit on an angle and on a placement that will decorate the arm nicely, maybe follows a little bit of flow on the arm. Not always. Sometimes it's cool with like the direct opposite of flow, but there's got to be something with the angles in sort of contrast to the arm it sits on. So I spend a lot of time on that stuff too. Let's say I just select both of the birds here, and we're going to uniformly transform them. Maybe I angle them a little bit, and we move them around. And I want to create a little bit of space in between these objects. I don't want them to sit here and be too close to the cyborg. I want them to sort of occupy a space where they kind of get to live on their own a bit, but still connect to the upper parts, while not making it feel messy. We gotta have some breathing room here. Let's say here, I think it's super cool when the signs kind of go down on the hand a little bit, almost like jewelry, if the client is open to it. But even if it doesn't go out on the hand necessarily, we want to just like find a nice layout where it sort of looks long and kind of sexy on the arm. So I think that we need a more of an angle. That already gives it a little more action and speed in the image. And maybe we position that somewhere here. And then we could take this bird and perhaps put it right there. Maybe we move this one up a little bit. It could be cool if at least a little part of this bird here covers the cyborg, because then we get this layered effect. We don't want them too close so that it gets messy, but we don't want them too far away either, because then it becomes a bunch of stickers. So we want them to sort of conversate a little bit together. So it's kind of cool and creating some depth if part of that wing is sort of on top of the cyborg. It gives it a more three-dimensional feeling. So right now, I think that's pretty okay for now. I'm going to bring back that shape. I'm actually going to do that rectangle from before. And it doesn't quite fit anymore, but I'm going to make it a little larger. Maybe I'm going to freeform it, pull it up a little bit, pull it to the side, so like part of her arm here. This arm is like outside the box. That's kind of cool. And what I can do now is actually turn off the birds and the angel and kind of see how do I feel about just this and this rectangle around it. I can see that because of this muscle here. In reality, when we tattoo this, this rectangle is going to look like that on the arm, because it'll sort of conform to the shape of the muscle. So that would be an argument to maybe stay away from doing that. But I think sometimes it's okay, as long as we're sort of aware of it and we know that, okay, this stencil is going to kind of look like this in real life when it sort of conforms to the muscles of the body. But I think we're going to make this rectangle kind of like a negative shape. So I think we're fine. I'm just going to use this rectangle as a measurement tool to sort of know what to cut out from the angel. Okay, so before we had this sort of faded look, like it was on top of this angel here, we had that shape. It was sort of a little bit lighter than the rest, like that kind of thing. I would say that maybe it's smarter to take it away completely, to create even more contrast around the cyborg. Because if I do that, if I take it off completely, we kind of create some more breathing room, and we're highlighting that cyborg way more. Now, because there's so much like skin around the cyborg and the darkness around it of this angel, we're kind of like highlighting this. Boom, it becomes like stronger. So if I turn back the birds, now I would say we have a little bit of a better flow to this piece. There's more like a little more breathing room than before. Somewhere there, and then we're going to turn on multiply on the cyborg. So in my eyes, this is already a little bit like bigger, and there's more breathing room. The base composition is a little bit stronger. At this point, when all those main elements are like nicely laid out and I feel like this looks good on its own, now I can start thinking about background stuff. Does it need any background even? Maybe it looks good just as it is. But we can try to bring in, let's see, I really like these columns from before. Maybe that could be cool to play with. So we don't want to kill all the breathing room, and we definitely don't want to sort of crowd the design too much. So I think these are going to be a little bit lighter. So I think these are going to be a little bit lighter here. What we can do is, actually, we're going to take that away, and then we're just going to duplicate this one and just mirror it so we get a complete one on the other side here. Okay, cool. We can turn off that shape soon, the little rectangle lines here, this one. Let's see. Maybe we can take these and kind of move them down here. As long as these aren't like too dark, then I don't think that it would steal the attention. We want to create a sort of tonal balance between all these elements. So we have a lot of darkness, we have a lot of detail. So I would say we kind of, if we do these in the background, they should be like on the lighter side to sort of not steal the show from us, you know, like we don't want them to mess this up. We just want them to be a subtle touch in the background. Just like that, maybe? Because they could help sort of highlight this negative rectangle. If we have some type of shading outside it, it'll help us see that there's an invisible negative rectangle around here, like that, you know. Maybe we are going to keep the shape. Let's do it like that, and then we can go into that layer, sort of clean it up. Like this. Yeah, maybe we even give these columns a little bit of a fade, so we could actually duplicate them. Now they became darker because they're transparent. And I think I'm going to just drag down the opacity again a little bit, and then I want to take my eraser and just make it real nice and big, and I'm going to carefully make it lighter at the bottom, so we sort of get this gradient going. You see, it's a gradient now. They're darker. Oops, they're darker here, and then as they go down, they get lighter and lighter. I think that could be a pretty nice effect, something like that. And we get this little horizontal line in the background. That's pretty cool. This could maybe even become like a band that reaches around the arm, like all the way around like that. That could be pretty cool. And I think if it were to become a band, it kind of sits on a nice level in terms of height of the arm. It's like roughly on the upper third of the arm. So that would be a kind of a good place to put like some kind of band around, if you like that. So yeah, that's how I think about designing and how to sort of create a strong fundamental design and getting a good layout before you start thinking about any background or anything like that. It's all about how the images are decorating the body part they sit on.